Welcome. If you're just joining us, this is the copper room. It's not the bronze room. This is not third place to gold and silver. This is just another feisty, valuable metal, copper. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. And if you're coming in, you did not heed my request to be early to these because late entrances are distracting. You're distracting us. Look at me. I can't even think straight. So distracted am I. In this session, we intend to take a journey into the future as we take stock of the strides made in the European Union's commitment to the circular economy, as well as reflecting on where we might be going next. This session is going to offer all of us a critical exploration of the role of the circular economy in tackling climate change, as well as competitiveness here in Europe. We'll work to identify gaps in the current policy framework, and we'll be trying to pinpoint areas that demand urgent EU action. And I'd like to begin, but I'm just so distracted. All right. I will begin. I'm going to begin by, and if you're coming in, just come right up to the front and distract us some more. With your late arrival, your heart's in the right place. Circular economy, but you're very linear when it comes to promptness. That's all I'm saying. All right. I'm going to let them off the hook, but you people shouldn't. Scowl at them a little. Scowl and then forgive. That's what we do. I'm going to begin by introducing the five members of the panel. Today will be a panel discussion with all the folks sitting there, me standing here like the proctor, but I won't be. I'm just going to try and generate a healthy conversation. Five people that know a lot about this, moderated by one who knows quite a bit less. Our panel, and y'all just come on up when I say your names. We've got Ms. Florica Fink-Hoyer, the Director-General of DG Environment, European Commission. We have Mr. Ambroise Fayot, the Vice President of the European Investment Bank. Mr. Pascal Bourgeois, the Vice President, International Markets COO and Global Channel Chief at Lenovo. Ms. Françoise Bonnet, Secretary General of AISBL, ACR+. That is a lot of letters. And finally, Ms. Sandra Dokic, the Secretary of State, Minister of Environmental Protection of Serbia. Please, a round of applause as our panel takes the stage. Coming up, there are ramps and stuff on the side, but I think there's no assigned seats. I think we go with coolest color on the left, so that would be you, Florica. But you're gonna make my man walk all the way over. That's just fine. That's just fine. No. Well, look, folks, y'all get cozy. I wanna just dive right in. And why don't we just go down the line and just say hi, I'm, so that everyone knows, because I said your names, but just a quick hello, I'm, so the audience knows who. Oh, but your pictures are up there. I should have had you sit in relation to the pictures actually, but I didn't. Next panel's the seating is gonna go down much better for the panels. Well, look, folks, I want to jump right in. I've got a question for all five of you to answer. And here's the thing. When you answer, it'd be great if you could just give kind of like a short answer to the question, sort of headlines only, and then we'll, I promise, have a chance to dive deeper. But if you could just answer in just a couple sentences, that'd be great for this first question. And that is, what specific policy measures do you believe are crucial for accelerating the transition toward a circular economy in Europe over the next 5 years? And how can these measures be effectively implemented? And why don't we start right here with you, Ambrose.
To be frank, I would prefer that Florica starts because she is in the policy making. And
all right,
we are not.
I like it. I like it.
Chicken. Let me perhaps start a bit differently because I'm actually super glad that we have this forum today. And why? Or in this moment? Because we will have European elections. And I hope from this panel, but also from the World Circular Economy Forum, from the international partners, from all the stakeholders, from the business, there will be a very loud message, hopefully, for the Parliament to say circularity is a no-brainer, but it's also where we have to go. And that is the first starting point. And under the Green Deal, we, of course, in European Commission, we used it to the full in order to really bring forward all types of legislation, which are now basically the foundation for whatever comes in the future. Sorry, I have something in my throat. But why am I saying that European Parliament? European Parliament goes for next mandate competitiveness. That's where circularity fits, right? because if we want to be sustainable, if we want to have less dependencies of supply chains and all of this, more autonomy, you go for circularity. But there is an underlying reason which is equally to be heard by the Parliament, which might, the next one, push back on the green. What is the underlying cause for going for circularity? The underlying cause is resource depletion. I'm very sorry for the audience. And also that we have biodiversity loss and climate change. And that is not circularity for its own sake. It is because we are having less materials. I think some might have listened to former Commissioner Potočnik this morning on the resource panel, the International Resource Panel report. That's the reason why we go for circularity. It's just a tool. And then we have laid the foundation. We made really full use of the mandate under the Green Deal, but it's not yet there. Now, next mandate is implementation, and there are gaps to fill. So I'm sorry, I have to stop because I drink something, and then I come back. Sorry.
Fair enough. And I think just, because I'll ask you questions by name in a moment, but everybody just pop in when you've got, I want it to be as organic as possible. If you've got something that this has just occurred to you, jump in to answer that question. That's not working? All right, you go first. So, and if you're distracted, I totally understand, because there's some distraction as we speak.
No, what I would say is the following. And again, what I heard this morning from the Dutch Minister of Environment is one of the areas where we probably would need some policy measures in terms of incentive. And she has made the example of plastics. That is a very good example. More generally, what I would say is let's not think that policy measures that are needed should allow us not to implement what has already been done. Because the truth is, when you look at policy measures that have been taken over the last years, many of them are really favoring circular economy projects. And a good example to me is what we have done in terms of strategic autonomy of Europe. When you finance projects for electric battery plants, as we have done at EIB in Sweden, in France, in Germany, it is clear that you cannot do that without thinking in terms of circular economy. And the same is for critical raw materials. So I would say certainly there are things that need to be improved in terms of policy measures. But to me, the most important is also to implement what we have already moved on.
But in all fairness, perhaps I would have to say, what have we done? Because I'm fully agreeing with you from Ambras, is really the next mandate, roll it out, mainstream it, and implement it at all levels, including cities and all the rest. But while we in Europe have been working now for, quite a while now on circularity, under this mandate, under the Green Deal, we were really starting with a very systemic approach. And we really went into what I would call a green industrial policy on a range of products, on a range of areas. And it started with batteries and with plastics, but it's also on packaging, it's also on green claims, it is also on a lot of other things. And the overarching idea is getting circular products becoming the norm by 2030. 2030 is around the corner, right? It's not very far. But the full idea, which we quite systematically rolled out in all types of legislation, was you start not by the waste stream, which we did in the beginning, but rather by the design. And you look at the full life cycle and the full value chain. And that's circularity. And that's what we would say, especially the Sustainable Product Framework, have proposed, and which is very much embraced now by member states, by business. And exactly as you said, because business always needs predictability. You as finance, you need also the predictability. Why would you otherwise invest? And that's where the implementation under the next mandate is so important. But that's why, I'm sorry to come back also, it is very important to give this message from this forum. Competitiveness means circularity, sustainable value chains, but it is there for a reason, because the world is not having more materials, it is faced with more biodiversity loss, more climate change. So logically, you go for circularity, and that's the whole idea. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's part of the organic feel of the whole thing. Having said that, let the other three answer. Pascal?
Yeah. So I think the question was about being specific on the measures, right?
Yeah, that you think are the super important ones for accelerating the transition.
So for us, I'm like the business representative here. So I think it's first about for the tech industry about standardizing, starting by standardizing in commitments, in goals, so that we can speak a common language. Once you've done that, it's also working with the entire value chain. So we talked about for us, it's the value chain from vendors. A PC or infrastructure is made of many, many parts. Software PCs as well, so working with all the vendors and working upstream as well with the distributors and the partners, the IT partners. So it's about the entire value chain of partnership. And then it's about defining rewards, giving rewards on good sustainability practices, good circular economy practices. So that's for us in a mindset of collaboration and partnership. I would like to come back on what you just said related to the circular approach. So for us, it's from the design to the usage to the afterlife of the product, whether it is for refurbishing or for recycling, and defining a very virtual ecosystem for anything in the tech industry, which is staying within the circular economy as much as possible.
That sounds great. Françoise?
Yes. Well, it's for me, and I will express a point of view from public authorities, so subnational authorities. And I don't want to repeat what has been said this morning regarding the problem of the material resource. We need 6 planets in the future if we do not do what we have to do. So if we see also the climate mitigation progress, it's due to the existence of a coordinated legally binding climate targets overarched by the EU climate law adopted in 2020. So based on this experience with other networks, we are convinced that we need to have this kind of overarching, let's say, binding frame in order to see where we have to go. And we have to go with not only CO2 emissions indicators, but also material footprint indicators. And maybe we can use what exists already. So we think, for example, the National Energy and Climate Plan. I mean, we still need to include much more circular economy and resource, sustainable resource management within this plan, or the prevention plan that we have already in as a mandatory thing to do. We could maybe increase these binding measures within a framework, a legal framework, because we need to have targets to tackle this problem of resource that we use in too many ways, and we use too much resources. And circularity is also could be also not enough at all, because we have concentrated a lot on recycling so far and on technologies, but we really need also to think about how we consume and produce and use our resources, and we need really to decrease the use of resources. So recycling is not enough. So we need to have this clearly mentioned in a legal framework.
Thanks, Françoise. Sandra, before I...
So just one point, it doesn't need to be legal. Absolutely. It's great if we got a legal framework. I love this concept of a binding framework, but there are opportunities to build these binding frameworks outside the legal framework. And I would like to give the examples that we put into place with Lenovo. We gathered our top partners and entities in the world, representing billions of revenue and dozens of billions of revenue with Lenovo. We put them into a room and we told them, how can we work together collaboratively to make the world a better place? And then we define work streams, we work within the UNGC, governance, we define KPIs, we define common goals, and within the framework of our partnership, we're able to make progress. Not as good as when there are legal binding frameworks, but it's possible to do it without it as well.
Yeah, I would like, I agree with you that we can do a lot on a voluntary basis, but not everything. Absolutely. And we need to have at least binding targets. And when you look at what we have done so far, I mean, we can do much more. We need to do much more. Absolutely. And we are still in a market when you have the supply and the demand, and with externalities, they are not with the true economic value on the market. So I'm sorry, but we need to put somewhere this problem in binding targets at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like, Pascal, what you said is we don't technically need it, but it's better if we have it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, then I'm with Francois.
Thank you.
Sandra, before you speak, I just want to remind everyone we're going to be taking questions in about a half hour. So if you think of a question, don't just yell it out, but think about it, and then we'll ask for questions here in the room. Also, if you're watching this online, no, I'm messing with you. But if you're watching it online, we'll also take questions from you via the app. And of course, in the room, you're free to use the app as well. If you're more of an introvert, I understand what that's like. Sandra.
Yes, thank you very much. I think that circularity is something what we need on a global and the local level as well. And having in mind the circular economy gap analysis showed that in year 23, only 7.2% of global economy was circular, and that is actually decreased by 21% comparing with the 2018, when it was to 9.1. It's really important to show the message that we need to improve and build our partnership in three aspects. That is communication, collaboration, and mutual support between, first, national and local level, the second, public and business sector, and the third, public and private sector with our citizens, which are usually our consumers. So that is actually something we should focus, not only Serbia, but also the Europe, because Serbia is the beginner circular economy, and it's the leader in Western Balkan economies.
That's great. All right, so the opening statements are on the floor, and even an opening rebuttal. What I want to do is ask each of you a question, one by one. Ambroise, and am I saying that correctly? No. I had a bad feeling, that's why I asked.
You were right.
Okay, hey, bro. Considering the diverse challenges and complexities involved in driving investments toward the circular economy, what innovative solutions or strategies do you see emerging?
What we see emerging in terms of strategy is innovative partnerships. And actually, I'm very interested that both you, Pascal, and Sandra said the word partnerships. What we are developing is partnerships in two directions. One partnership with actually, I could add the partnership with the multilateral development banks that has been launched since last year. And we are expressing today a shared vision that is going to be very interesting to look at ways how we can work on, what we do, the methodologies, because it should go without saying, but it does not. So this is something that triggers a lot of interest in our various MDB institutions. and also business model that work and those that do not work. So partnership with individuals is certainly one aspect. I wanted to mention two partnerships that have been developed with EIB. The first one is with the European Commission on one specific item for circular economy, which is cities. And we have launched last year, as a pilot, what we call the C3, so a Circular City Center, which is a center of competence, to help the cities which are interested to develop their policies, putting circular as one of the key pillars. And actually, we have so far had a very, very interesting success with 7 cities already in the pipe. One being the city of Leuven in Belgium that has requested a framework loan, because one of the interests of this is to be able to have a sort of framework loan where you can dedicate small amounts for specific smaller projects, which is one of the difficulties for institutions that are used to do big lending. So that's worked so well that the European Commission has decided to allocate 9 million euros until 27 to boost this project C3. So if you are interested, go to, there is a web page for C3. There is, I think, c3@eib.org for those who have questions, so don't hesitate on cities. And then, with our partners from the national promotional banks, so there is a group called the 5+1, which is the one is us, and the 5 are the National Promotional Bank of Germany, France, Italy, Spain, and Germany. Germany, Italy, France, Spain, and Poland. And we have decided that we would do 10 billion euros of projects on circular economy from the period 2009 to 2013, so over 5 years. And actually, we were at 11.5 at the end of last year. So we have decided to boost the project and to increase the 11.5 to 16 billion by the end of 25, and add a 6th partner who is Invest Netherlands, Invest NL. And this is also the way that, at the end of the day, volumes are going to help, because it brings also great projects that you can showcase and bring other projects, because this is interesting. Why wouldn't we do that? So that's what I would say in terms of innovation. There are also innovation in terms of the products at the bank that we can propose to a circular economy project, but then it becomes rather technical.
Fair enough. Let me turn to Pascal. In a scenario where new pieces of legislation, such as the Eco-Design for Sustainable Products regulation, are implemented, how does a global tech company such as Lenovo plan to engage with its suppliers and partners to promote sustainable practices throughout the supply chain?
So, different elements to the answer. So, first, we don't wait for regulatory institutions to do the work which is required for us to become a better citizen and embrace circular economy also as a business opportunity. So, as an example, I was in our labs in Japan. It's called the Yamamoto Labs, where we create the ThinkPad products that some of you may enjoy on a daily basis. And I've seen some of the concepts that will be live in a couple of years that were prepared already 6 to 9 months ago. And some of the concepts were pretty much 80% around sustainability. I cannot tell you all the details of those, but repairability, being able to have a PC which is fixing itself, self-healing, or parts which are easy to replace is at the core of the design of those products. So that's a very concrete innovation. Other innovations can be when it comes to services, proposing to the channel partners services which are helping them to improve circular economy on their business. Most of them, they don't know what to do. So when we first launched the Lenovo CC Circle, just when you launch the 5+1, you know, you're starting to put people around the table. We're starting by the top 20 partners of Lenovo in the world. And then we're expanding to, this year, we're going to reach 150 partners. So IT partner, and IT partner is doing pretty much between 20 million to 150 million of business in the IT area, not only with Lenovo, obviously, but with all of NT vendors. The top are multi-billion partners or resellers. And then we've defined a framework, and depending on with a self-assessment, and each partner, just like you did with 5+1, defining common targets with the top, and then for those just joining, self-assessment and defining, helping themselves to define targets. And that is increasing the self-awareness around circular economy and finding solutions. You can be innovative only if you are different parties around the table. And we are very happy to work also with governing bodies with which we are happy to collaborate and comply with, always with a lot of agility and in a way which is very much looking for solutions to solve a business problem.
That's exciting. That's exciting. Françoise, how do you envision the role of collaboration between local, regional, national, and European governmental institutions in both shaping and implementing the circular economy agenda for Europe from now until 2029?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to record that it's crucial because 70% of the implementation of the EU Green Deal will be at local level. So it's really important to get them, I mean, cities and regions, so subnational level, part of this decision-making process. We think it should be a better or a structured dialogue between the different level at national, also at EU level. It's for us really important to be part of the game since the beginning, to be able to also explain what are the challenges at local level. We have to also be in mind that at local level, your citizens, they are also consumers. So you are really in the middle where you can work on the supply chain by promoting your local economy, but also on the demand side. And it's really, really important. We do not have to forget that we need to change our consumption patterns, and like that, as a consequence, also our production way to produce products. So it's really important to be in the center in this decision-making process. Among the many challenges we have at local level, we have difficulties to have EU fundings, and of course, we are really happy with the C3. No, let's wait a little bit. The C3 initiative is really good, and we are collaborating with it through the CCRI initiative that we are involved in. But what we see very often is that it's a lot of EU funding programs are still driven by a project system. I mean, we need to enter into a project and not a program. And we have always to stick the innovation criteria. And this sometimes is a little bit difficult because we consider that it's not only a technological innovation, but we need also societal innovation. And another thing that it's for us difficult, and I think that we can work all together, and especially with the private sector, is about the public procurement instrument. We are still facing really difficulties to use public procurement to promote innovation in terms of green new products, etc., because it's not easy for local municipalities to understand what they can do or not. It's still very difficult. And we have still problem in promoting local economy. Just to give you a little example, it's really difficult for municipalities to promote local agriculture in the different catering systems, so in jails, public schools, etc., because you cannot put as a criteria the proximity. So you have to mention 0 kilometers, or you have to find a way to promote this local economy in avoiding problems, but it's not easy. And last point, at local and regional level, I mean subnational level, we really need skills. Skills to be a partner with the business sector, to be able to have a public-private partnership at equal level, and also skills to understand what does it mean circular economy, what can be done at local level, and for that we need to allocate budget for subnational entities.
All right, the plea for budget is there. Sandra, how do efforts to transition to a circular economy in Serbia fit into the country's progress toward EU membership?
Yes, as I mentioned, Serbia is a beginner in circular economy. And also as a candidate country, we really need to align with the EU acquis, especially with the regulation related to the environment and climate change, which is the most demanding and the most costly. But we in Serbia recognize circular economy as an efficient tool for green transition, not as a burden. So we saw that is a really big potential, and that's why in year 2020 we developed the roadmap. That was the first roadmap that kind in the Western Balkan region, and also after that we realized that it's really important to have one national program. So in year 22 we developed and adopted, government adopted that national program for to develop circular economy in Serbia for the 3 years period. That was really important step because we had the concrete actions and we almost fulfill everything what we planned through the action plan. So the important step was to improve regulatory framework. That's why we actually changed and we amended the law on waste management, and we facilitate use of waste for scientific and research purposes. Also, we improve environment with secondary legislation, that is the end of waste and byproduct. What was really important to start with this activity and to be more active. And what we recognize is really something what can bring a lot of circularity is construction demolition waste, and that's why we also adopted regulation. And now we are really focused on also on this waste, which is a really huge problem to Serbia. Also, as I mentioned, it's necessary to have a good partnership between national and local level. So we have a lot of investment at this moment. So we are building the regional centers all over the Serbia, and I think in the next period we will cover 2.4 million citizens in Serbia, which can also contribute to the source separation and also circular economy. And what is the most important, also through different project actions, we support for local self-government to develop circular economy roadmap for themselves, and also 7 cities and municipalities to integrate circular economy into the local waste management plans. That was our communication and the partnership between national and local level. Also, we supported through different project activities the investments in a private sector, because it's really important to recognize the circular economy as a tool for in their business model, not only as a burden, as I mentioned. And we started with some innovation, and we support 25 innovation through a tool, we call it Circle Voucher. That was direct cooperation between a scientific and business sector. So we supported all these projects, and we are proud that they recognize something like that as a really huge potential. Also with the partnership with the UNDP and with the financial support from EU, GEF, Switzerland and Sweden government, we started with the challenge calls. The challenge calls for the public, for the pilot project, and we attracted almost 80 public and private companies and research institution and also local self-government with the total investments of value is 32 million US dollars. The financial support from the nation was also through the more than 60 innovative pilot ideas with the more than 2.8 million US dollars co-financing, but this support leveraged investments of more than 22 million US dollars in only 2 years. So with all this action, that was something what was activities also within the circular economy program. We actually covered the wide spectrum of circularity, like the recycling of textile, construction waste, use of food surplus for cosmetic products, and biodegradation of plastic, etc., etc. Why that is important? That is really important because we have in mind the surveys really strongly support the further development of common regional market in line with the new growth plan for the Western Balkan, and that is actually opportunity to us to include our greater ambition and innovation in order to fostering economic growth, trade facilitation, regional, industrial, and innovation area, which will lead to deeper integration with the region and also with the EU.
Alrighty, then Freuk, you've got the toughest job, I think, because you've come in here thinking a certain thing, but now I'm curious, now that you've heard all 4 of these takes, their experiences and their ideas, how do you see the transition to a circular economy in the next decade going down, and how's it affected by what you just heard? How are those thoughts affected by what you just heard?
Now, let me start by saying, when you listen, whether you go for more regulation or less regulation, what is positive, there had been really a lot of significant progress on circularity. I think the concept is well understood now. I'm not necessarily, though coming from the Commission, I'm not pleading for more regulation. I think we have really laid the foundation now. And now it's really for implementation. Implementation and potentially also enforcement. Having said that, without the trajectory being laid out, it is very difficult to reach targets. So that's why the regulation is giving that push and this idea. This is a World Circular Economy Forum. So clearly, if the underlying cause is about resource depletion, pollution, biodiversity loss, and climate change, it is a global issue. So it's about a level playing field. Because if we want to say, now let's invest in circularity, as long as primary raw materials, and especially plastic because of fossil fuels, are still cheaper than the secondary raw materials that we want to produce through circularity, it's not a level playing field. So we do need that discussion at global level, which is happening, and we do need perhaps also certain standards, while we will have potentially a global plastic treaty. But that, setting that aside, I mean, as Europe, we will want to go ahead in any case, because we want to strive, as Ambras is saying, also for a certain non-dependence from supply chains and autonomy for a certain amount. So that requires societal understanding, potentially change of behavior. I'm not a big in favor of always saying you change your lifestyle. It either comes or doesn't come. It will come because resources will become more scarce and therefore more expensive. So reusability, repairability, upgradability, all these principles that we have now laid down in our regulation probably becomes a necessity. Now, progress done, yes, fine. Is it sufficient? No, not at all. It's just, an understanding. We need much more urgency because, as I said, everything is dwindling. And for that, we need investment, but not only investment in the financial sense, but also really investment understanding political will to go into the right infrastructure. I mean, again, I'm sorry, I'm dwelling a little bit on plastics, but when we want to, have a critical mass of recycling, you need to have also the infrastructure to capture it, to sort it, and then to mingle it and to work on it. So, and also for innovation, we need investment in innovation because there's not a standstill, I'm quite sure, and your examples are very good. Industry is thinking much further than a regulator is doing, but hopefully we are sometimes going hand in hand. But there, investment in research, innovation, infrastructure, all of this is needed. Societal change is needed. And then identifying the gaps, but also the opportunities. I mean, it's clear that now we will go much more into what is called bioeconomy, especially also, again, if you look at bio-based plastics, degradable plastics. But again, it will not be a level playing field as long as fossil fuels are cheaper. And therefore, there's no incentive to go. So yes, regulation can help, but the market has its own rules. So we can set trajectory, we can set targets, but it will only fly if the investor, the business makes the case, but also the consumer sees it and puts it up in the local level. I think there's clearly a potential. And now I started with the parliament when I, in my first intervention. I don't think in the next parliament we will go so much for many, many more new legislation. We have a lot of implementing rules to be done together with the industry when you go on electronic waste, on textile waste, on different sectors which are having this high potential of circularity. But it's no longer only about climate footprint or the energy footprint. It's very much about the material footprint. And that will be the next challenge, and that will be also important for banks to realize. But then we will also see what will the next parliament or the co-legislator made out of it if we go not so much for new legislation, but we need the investment. And that is where the MFF comes in and where a role for the next parliament is. And again, they need the push from industry, from the local level and regional level, from the banks to say, where do you put your money? Because money will become very scarce in the future. So where do we put the money? In those areas where we use and waste and throw it away, or into the circular model. And that's where I hope from this forum here we will send the right messages. I'm quite confident on that, but it is a step-by-step approach, but we are already quite far on it. But we need, of course, not only look at Europe, but really globally and do this together. It's partnership, collaboration, all this we already mentioned, because it's a planetary issue why we go for circularity, not just because there's only a business case. But it wouldn't fly if people don't see the business case, and that's good. So let's go for that.
Well, we've got plenty of questions. I've got some online. I see one already. If you've got a question, raise your hand. We've got two able-bodied microphone transporters that can bring you a microphone. I'm gonna start with one from online just so that we're not spending any time. Tuomo Lane asks, what policies are already helping new and existing companies be more profitable quicker with circular revenue streams versus linear revenue streams? And let me say, I know for every question, all 5 of you are gonna want to jump on it, but if you don't have to, let it go, because there's not much time left for questions. Right, Pascal, I think we're looking at you right now.
Yeah. It's a very broad question, so try to answer with specific examples. I think what you just said is the two regulation and business case have to be combined to make it work. The one with the other won't work. So what it's about is, okay, how can we move into execution? What are the compelling reasons to move into execution? One of the examples coming to my mind is what we've been doing for the public sector, which is also one of the points you were referring to. It's not easy, so my job is global. So this, from international markets is for everything outside China, and in the US, it's probably the area of the world where the schools are the most organized in driving tenders for different IT equipments, and they've been working in defining circular framework so that companies can fulfill their requirements in a circular manner. So instead of buying one-off a Chromebook, for instance, which is addressing the digital divide, has been addressing the digital divide in the US, by the way, and it's millions of Chromebooks going sometimes by huge pallets into a single school, and then the head teacher handing over the boxes one-to-one with the students. It's about, okay, how do we think about this in a circular manner? Oh, we need to have those products coming in bulk packaging. If I'm a school and I'm going to hand over 150 laptops, I'm going to put them into a bulk packaging within pallets which are fitting in the most efficient way. I'm going to give the sleeves together with the laptop. I'm going to ask the question whether the student has already an AC adapter to avoid having two AC adapters. Then once you've done that, it's about after 3 years, or after 2 years, after 4 years, having in the contract the recycling or the refurbishing of the device, then providing a certified, genuine, second-hand device opportunity for the school, then providing the services that are going alongside with this new circular way of thinking. And then once you scratch the surface of what are the concrete things that those guys can do, well, the public schools in the US, it's like, wow, there's so much that we can do if we think about it end to end. I'm just taking one example of providing like a commodity laptop for a student.
Ambas, you had a response?
I was just thinking one example, which is the construction sector. Because there the option is less what's going to make my company more competitive rather than if I continue with linear economy. Actually, the question is, do we have enough materials for continuing to build houses that are needed for the population? And if you look at this, then the economic advantage of moving more to a circular economy becomes much clearer.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I think also towards services economy, it's really important. And I would like to add maybe that in your sector, you are lucky because you have already an interesting frame at EU level with the WE directive, with now the right to repair. I think that those elements, I mean, piece of, legislation.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Helped you to move on.
Absolutely, and EC is leading the way for the rest of the world, absolutely. Yeah. California will catch up soon. But for instance, for most of our customers and partners in Asia, they are very interested about what the EU is doing across the board, because they see the EU as at the forefront of all the things that can be done to make the world a better place in terms of circular economy.
That's great. I know we've got a question over here.
Yes. Hi, I'm Nora Griefan, CEO of Cradle to Cradle NGO from Germany. And I have a question to Florica Fink-Hoyer especially, but also to you. When we look on the international perspective, but also especially when we are now talking about European Union and the European perspective, we are all talking about circular economy, but all of us mean something different when we talk about it. And I see when I talk with a lot of different cities and people from all over Europe, that there's a really, really different understanding on what a circular economy is, and especially on the quality of a circular economy. So we are talking about that we really want like a circular economy with positive impacts, but the other ones are talking about a circular economy that is like waste management. And how, like when we're talking about these gaps, how do we get to a holistic understanding of a circular economy in all these different regions so that we can actually work on a same goal together?
I think it's a very pertinent question because, as I said, it's a global challenge and not just one for Europe. It is true that even in Europe, many think when you say circular economy, they think about recycling. And that's exactly where we also started from, but where now we say, no, we start by the design and then go through the, as I said, life cycle and full value chain. This is not even yet fully understood in Europe, and it very much depends on the sector, which type of sectors you're talking about. I'm very glad that Ambroise mentioned construction sector, because cement needs very simple materials like water and sand, which are dwindling as well. There will be a fierce race for having these type of resources, right? Which is totally not understood. So, and with the Ukraine war, people understood, well, I can reuse rubble, provided it's not contaminated with certain substances. Now, globally, we have the gas area, we have very many circular economy alliances, we have regional alliances, and I think in one of these days, we will also have from INPA, for instance, the launch of a, I don't know whether it's called resource center or something else, but it resembles basically what we have like a European circular economy stakeholder platform. Because yes, you need to discuss with everybody, and it has to be localized, it has to be made specific for a certain sector, but it is also very much about exchanging best practices, also regulatory approaches. I've been a lot in international fora where there are wonderful examples in Latin America, for instance, but also in Africa on circularity. And we should also not always think about circularity about the most sophisticated sectors. I mean, of course, in electronic waste and others, and packaging, when we talk about plastics, yes, it's a bit more sophisticated. But if you go for bioeconomy, you know, sometimes very simple solutions. So it means we can also learn from others, because ultimately, it's, as I said, it's not just climate neutrality and on an energy footprint and so on. It is really also the material footprint, which becomes more and more at the forefront. And there are some have already good solutions. I mean, if you want, even EUDR, our anti-deforestation regulation, is about circularity, because it's about sustainable products management, right? A sustainable way of producing a product or a commodity. So you can put it into different sectors, different countries. I think it always needs to be localized, because it's also depending on the framework conditions. What is the investment framework? What is the taxation framework? What is the procurement framework? And there we differ in many countries, and which doesn't mean that therefore it's unsurmountable. We will go for more global circular approaches. As I said, DG INPA is setting up some sort of center with quite a lot of money in order to steer further ahead alongside the the circular economy alliances in a more practical way to go forward and disseminate best practices. And industry, I'm quite sure industry, you're global anyhow, so you're acting in different countries according to the necessities and the what you have as materials in the country.
Absolutely.
But I'm agreeing, first of all, perhaps from a European perspective, I would be already happy if people would say, understand, it's not just about recycling ourselves out of a waste stream. That's not enough. So good question. Thank you.
I think we got time for just one more question. Yep.
Thanks. My name is Joost de Kluiver for Closing Loop. Thanks so much for your presentations, and thanks to DG for promoting pragmatism in circularity as well. Just a question, it was mentioned collaboration and partnerships. We very often see that means that the government teams up with large companies, or that companies team up with their current suppliers. Given the need to innovate, I was wondering what the current speakers think about how do you make these collaborations more innovative? Who do you bring onto the table, for example, social enterprises, to make sure you come up with something new? Thanks.
Good idea.
Want me to take this one? I can't.
So, yes. I mean, for our perspective, it's clear that collaboration is our mantra. So we have been, our network specifically, and so all the cities and regions being member of our network, since our creation 30 years ago, we have been promoting this collaboration between the different stakeholders. So promoting, and speaking with also the private sector, social enterprises, and trying to give access to waste stream to social enterprises, pushing for certain products, green products through public procurement. And you know that you need also to understand the market. So, for example, a very good example regarding building sector in Brussels, the Flemish region built a brand new office with this cradle-to-cradle perspective. And beforehand, so before drafting the technical criteria, they have been negotiating and learning from the market and the actors to see what was feasible, how far they could go in order to meet with certain technical criteria. On a European level, you have the multi-stakeholder platform and circular economy present here. So for sure, it's very important, and it has to be a little bit structured or institutionalized. In some of our members, where they have implemented circular economy strategy, they have also implemented a kind of governance beforehand, trying to have the different parties working together with certain rules in order to have the best solution for the territory.
I think it's also a little bit about how you create incubators for instance, startups or not. I mean, under the LIFE program, we tried a few. At the same time, much of the innovation comes from the SMEs in Europe, right? And I will be the first one to say it's very complex, the rules, the access to finance for SMEs. And there we have to also think about how to foster that capital, actually. So I'm sorry, but I think Thomas, you want to come.
No, but I agree. One of the instruments that we have created in the recent years is a venture debt instrument that is trying to help those not startup, but close to startup companies growing very well because their innovation is very interesting and consuming a lot of cash because of this. And that is something that we can see in the circular economy, and that we are ready to provide, even if it is very risky, and that means that all projects are not successful. But we are a public bank. That's what we are here for. And the second thing is this is very capital consuming for a bank. But that's fine. Again, this is completely in line with our strategy. Now, the bulk of the partnership that we do is not for that, is not for innovation. It is for scaling up. It is for sharing knowledge, experience, best practices, and making sure that we can all benefit in all the regions, because Florica is right, this is a global issue, from what works, and even more important, what has not worked, that we can then implement and help in other projects. That's the bulk of the partnerships.
In the case of Lenovo, we lean a lot on collaboration to get the feedbacks from the partners and the customers, whether they are consumers or customers, SMBs and big enterprise, to define what are the R&D areas where we need to invest. Obviously, there are things which are we're thriving in technology, so there's the technology innovation, but there are also a lot of opportunities in the circular economy area with services which are either contributing to improve circular economy, or to products which are being much more aligned to the circular economy requirements that coming from public sector, or for coming from state, or for coming from private sector as well. In the telco industry, which is very advanced in terms of being very demanding in terms of requirements related to circular economy. So we listen to those feedbacks and adjust. So for instance, consumption of an AC adapter to infrastructure, power supplies of infrastructure, for instance, power supply of laptops, for instance. I mean, I could go, the list goes on things that we're doing to improve liquid cooling on infrastructure, with a circular liquid cooling, as opposed to using water to cool down the infrastructure. I mean, the list is really, really impressive.
Well, I know you could go on and on and on. I think all five of you all could go on, and I think everybody in here would love this conversation to continue, and online as well. Unfortunately, I've got to bring it to an end right now. I do want to say that's another great reason to be active on the app. If you have more questions or more conversations, you know, let this session just be the start and let it continue on the app. That's a fantastic place to make that happen. Folks, I want a big round of applause and thank you for our panel. Florian Kaffink-Hoyer, Ambroise Fayot, Pascal Bourget, Françoise Monet, and Sandra Docker. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And everyone else, it is time to move on to your next panel. Hopefully you walk away realizing the circular economy holds a big untapped potential to support the transition to net zero, and a stronger, open, strategic autonomy in Europe is going to be a benefit not just to Europe, for other regions of the world. We will see you on the app or at your next session.